What is a hero? Is it a figure cloaked in myth, wielding a magic sword against a fire-breathing dragon? For much of human history, our heroes were demigods and legends, their stories told around flickering fires, their deeds larger than life itself. But as we left the Middle Ages, something shifted. We began to look not just to the heavens for our saviors, but to each other. The Age of Enlightenment dawned. Science began to illuminate the dark corners of our ignorance, and our understanding of the universe, and our place within it, expanded at an explosive rate. This new age called for a new kind of hero, one made not of myth, but of flesh and blood, of courage and curiosity. These modern heroes are stars in our human constellation. They are individuals who, when faced with the immense gravity of injustice, ignorance, or despair, generated their own light. They didn't have supernatural powers. Their power came from a different source. It came from the relentless pursuit of truth. It came from an ocean of compassion. It came from an unshakable conviction that the world could be better, that humanity could be better. They were scientists, activists, doctors, farmers. They were ordinary people who, through extraordinary acts of will, bent the arc of history toward justice and understanding, reminding us of the boundless potential locked within the human spirit. Imagine a world where the truth is a crime. A world where to look up at the night sky and describe what you see, plainly and honestly, is to risk your freedom and your life. This was the world of Galileo Galilei. He did not set out to be a hero. He was a mathematician. He was an astronomer. He was a man consumed by an insatiable curiosity about the cosmos. He built a telescope, a simple tube with lenses. In his hands it became a key to unlock the universe. He pointed it toward the heavens and saw things that no one had ever seen before. He saw mountains on the moon. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter, a miniature solar system that didn't revolve around the Earth. For centuries the established order said, the sun, the planets, the stars, all revolved around the Earth. We were the center of everything. Galileo's observation suggested otherwise. This was a philosophical earthquake. The forces of dogma gathered against him. He was brought before the Inquisition. Faced with a choice between comfortable falsehood and perilous truth, Galileo chose truth. Galileo chose truth. Galileo chose truth. For this he was condemned. Though silenced, his ideas were like seeds scattered on the wind. His stand was pivotal in the birth of modern science. He was a martyr for free thought. Some heroes fight with swords, others with ideas. Harriet Tubman fought with footsteps in the dead of night. Born into the brutal reality of slavery in Maryland, she knew only a world of bondage and cruelty. But within her burned a star of defiance, a yearning for freedom as fundamental as gravity. After escaping to the north in 1849, she could have chosen safety. She could have started a new life, leaving the horrors of the past behind. But Harriet was not built that way. Her own freedom was incomplete as long as her family and her people remained in chains. She felt a calling, a mission from a higher power, to return to the heart of danger. She became a conductor on the Underground Railroad, a secret network, safe houses, brave allies. Harriet made the perilous journey back into slaveholding territory, not once, not twice, but an estimated 13 times. She was a master of disguise, a brilliant strategist, a figure of unwavering courage. Slave owners, furious at her success, placed a massive bounty on her head, yet they never caught her. She was a ghost in the night, a phantom liberator known to those she rescued as Moses, leading her people to the promised land of freedom. Through her direct efforts, she guided an estimated 70 enslaved people to freedom, including her own elderly parents. She never lost a single passenger on a celestial railroad. Our greatest enemies are often the ones we cannot see. For most of human history, we were at the mercy of invisible assassins. A small cut could lead to a deadly infection. Childbirth was a life-threatening event. Entire cities could be wiped out by plagues whose origins were a complete mystery. We blamed bad air divine punishment imbalances in the body. The truth was far smaller and far more pervasive. The hero who first unmasked these microscopic killers was not a soldier, but a quiet, methodical chemist from France named Louis Pasteur. His laboratory was his battlefield, and his weapon was the scientific method. Pasteur's journey began not with medicine, but with wine. He was asked to figure out why some batches of wine beer were spoiling. Through his microscope, he discovered that the spoilage was caused by tiny living organisms, microbes. He then theorized that if these germs could spoil wine, perhaps similar germs could spoil the human body and cause disease. This was the revolutionary germ theory of disease. He proved that by heating the wine just enough to kill the microbes, pasteurization could preserve it. He investigated anthrax devastating livestock and identified the bacterium responsible. He created a weakened form of the anthrax bacteria and injected it into sheep. In a dramatic public demonstration in 1881, he vaccinated one group of animals and left another unprotected. His most famous battle was against rabies, a terrifying and universally fatal disease. A young boy, Joseph Meister, was brought to him mauled by a rabid dog. Pasteur chose to act. He administered the vaccine, and the boy lived. In a world and a profession dominated by men, Marie Curie was a supernova. Born Maria Skłodowska in Poland, a country under Russian oppression where women's access to higher education was, really restricted, her ambition was itself an act of rebellion. She moved to Paris to study at the Sorbonne, living on bread and tea, sometimes even fainting from hunger. But her mind was ablaze with curiosity. She was driven by a passion to understand the fundamental nature of matter. She met and married Pierre Curie, a brilliant scientist who became her partner in life and in the laboratory. Together they embarked on a journey into the very heart of the atom, a realm that was, honestly, previously unknown to science. They were fascinated by the work of Henri Becquerel, who had discovered that uranium salts emitted mysterious rays. Marie Curie took this observation and turned it into a systematic investigation. She discovered that the mineral pitchblende was far more radioactive than could be explained by its uranium content alone. What followed was, honestly, an act of heroic labor. For 4 years, in a leaky, drafty shed that was little more than a shack, Marie and Pierre Curie undertook the monumental task of isolating this new element. They processed tons of pitchblende ore, boiling it in huge cauldrons. Through this incredible perseverance, they succeeded. They isolated not one, but 2 new elements. Polonium, named after Marie's beloved homeland, and radium, an element so radioactive it glowed in the dark with a beautiful, ghostly blue light. Marie Curie's discoveries shattered the long-held belief that atoms were the indivisible, fundamental building blocks of the universe. Her life was a radiant testament to the power of a single, brilliant mind to illuminate the entire world. History has filled the deafening roar of armies, the grand pronouncements of leaders. But sometimes, the most profound heroism happens in a whisper. The quiet rustle of a forged document, the muffled cry of a baby in a sack, the silent courage of a heart that refuses to accept the unacceptable. Irina Sendler was a Polish social worker in Warsaw during the Nazi occupation of World War II. When the city's 450,000 Jews were forced into the brutal, walled-off ghetto, Irina knew she could not stand by. While others saw a prison of despair, she saw a garden of children that needed to be saved. As a non-Jewish employee of the social welfare department, she had a permit to enter the ghetto to inspect sanitary conditions. She used this access as a Trojan horse for her rescue mission. She began smuggling Jewish children out to safety. The methods were as ingenious as they were terrifying. She and her network of co-conspirators, mostly other women, hid children in ambulances with patients dying of typhus. They sedated infants, placed them in boxes, placed them in coffins, placed them in sacks. They guided older children through the city's sewer systems dark. Foul, treacherous, each rescue was a dance with death. But Irina's heroism went beyond the physical act of smuggling. She understood that saving a life meant saving an identity. She recorded their real names. She recorded their new, false identities on thin strips of tissue paper. She placed these lists inside glass jars, buried them under an apple tree in a neighbor's yard. It is estimated she and her network saved about 2,500 Jewish children from the Holocaust. You may not know his name, but you are alive today because of him. This is not an exaggeration. Norman Borlaug is arguably the greatest hero of the 20th century, yet his name is rarely spoken outside of agricultural circles. He didn't lead an army, invent a gadget, or star in a movie. His superpower was a deep understanding of wheat. In the mid-20th century, the world was on the brink of a Malthusian catastrophe. Experts predicted that the rapidly growing global population would outstrip the food supply, India, Pakistan leading to famines of biblical proportions that would kill hundreds of millions of people. Borlaug, humble plant pathologist from Iowa, refused to accept this grim forecast. Working in a research station in Mexico, he began a long, arduous process of breeding a new kind of wheat. He wasn't just looking for a plant that produced more grain. He needed a miracle wheat. It had to be resistant to devastating diseases like stem rust. It also had to be short and sturdy. High-yield varieties tended to grow too tall and would collapse under the weight of their own grain before they could be harvested. Borlaug began the painstaking work of crossbreeding thousands of different wheat varieties from around the world. He developed a technique called shuttle breeding, growing 2 generations of wheat in a single year by shuttling seeds between different climates in Mexico. After more than a decade of frustrating, back-breaking work under the hot Mexican sun, he finally succeeded. He developed a semi-dwarf, high-yield, disease-resistant wheat strain. When this new wheat was introduced to Mexico, the country's harvest sextupled. Norman Borlaug is credited with saving over 1 billion lives from starvation, more than any other single person in history. Before our computers were made of silicon and circuits, they were made of people. They were brilliant minds, often women, who performed the complex mathematical calculations essential for science engineering. Katherine Johnson was one of these human computers, an African-American woman growing up in a segregated America, a country under Russian oppression, where women's access to higher education was, really restricted. The path to her destiny was lined with obstacles. But her mind was a universe of numbers, and her brilliance could not be contained by earthly prejudice. She had an insatiable curiosity about how things worked, and from a young age, she counted everything. She counted the steps to the road, the steps to the church, the number of dishes she washed. She graduated from college at 18 and eventually found her way to the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory, the precursor to NASA. There, she and other African-American women worked in a segregated unit, performing the complex trajectory analysis for the nascent U.S. space program. They were the hidden figures, the intellectual engines behind the astronauts who got all the glory. Katherine's particular genius was for analytic geometry. She could visualize the mathematical path of an object through space, launch orbit splashdown, with astonishing accuracy. Her mind was the original GPS. Her work was critical to the success of America's first forays into space. In fact, as NASA began to use new electronic computers for the Glenn mission, the astronaut was wary. He trusted Katherine more than the machine. "Get the girl to check the numbers," Glenn famously said. "If she says they're good, I'm ready to go." Her greatest achievement was yet to come. She was a key member of the team that calculated the trajectory for the Apollo 11 mission. When you look at the iconic images of that one small step, remember the years of quiet, brilliant work done by Katherine Johnson. The heroes we've met on this brief journey are a diverse constellation. They are scientists. They are activists. They are saviors. They are scholars. They worked in laboratories. They worked in forests. They worked in ghettos. They worked in fields of wheat. They fought visible tyrants. They fought invisible microbes. Yet they all share a common trajectory. They saw a problem, a darkness in the world, and instead of turning away, they dedicated their lives to generating light. They remind us that heroism isn't about being perfect or fearless. It's about acting in the face of fear. It's about seeing a need and choosing to be the one who meets it, no matter the personal cost. Their legacies are woven into the very fabric of our modern world. We live longer, healthier lives because of Louis Pasteur. We eat from a global pantry secured by Norman Borlaug. We navigate the universe with a map charted by Galileo, and with calculations by Katherine Johnson. Our society's been closer to justice because of the paths forged by Harriet Tubman and by Irena Sendler. The energy that powers our world and the medicine that treats our diseases flow from the radiant mind of Marie Curie. They changed history, not with a single explosive act, but with lifetimes of dedication, courage, relentless curiosity. What then? Curiosity. What then is the lesson from these lives? It is that the universe is not a finished story. It is a work in progress, and we are the authors of the next chapter. Heroism is not a quality reserved for a chosen few. It is a potential that resides within every one of us. It is the impulse to question, to care, to build, to protect, to discover. To build, to protect, to discover. It is the choice to use our brief time in the cosmos to leave it a little better. The cosmos is waiting. What will you do?